Edson Arantes do Nascimento, known to the world as Pelé, was born on October 23, 1940, in the small town of Três Corações in the state of Minas Gerais, Brazil. His family lived a modest life, and money was often scarce, but there was a richness in warmth and values that would shape him into the man who would become the most iconic footballer in history. His father, João Ramos do Nascimento, nicknamed Dondinho, had once been a footballer himself, but his career was cut short by injuries and the lack of opportunity. His mother, Celeste, was the foundation of the family, providing strength, discipline, and affection, even when life was difficult. Pelé grew up surrounded by love but also by the struggles of poverty, which forced him to be resourceful and imaginative from a very young age. From the beginning, football was present in his world. His father, despite the setbacks in his own sporting career, continued to play casually and would share stories of his own time on the field. These stories ignited young Pelé's imagination, and he began to dream of what it might feel like to be a great player. Yet, the family's limited means meant that he could not afford a real ball. Instead, he improvised, using socks stuffed with rags, grapefruits, or anything that could roll and be kicked around. Along with his friends, he would play barefoot on the streets, turning every scrap of open ground into a football pitch. What might have seemed like hardship to others became an advantage to him, because playing barefoot helped him develop extraordinary control, balance, and awareness of the ball. Even as a child, he displayed a natural instinct for the game. Life was not easy. The family often struggled to make ends meet. Pelé took odd jobs, such as shining shoes, to help contribute to the household. This sense of responsibility at a young age made him mature beyond his years, instilling in him an appreciation for hard work and sacrifice. But whenever he found time to return to the makeshift games of football with his friends, his joy was boundless. Those moments of play became the place where he expressed himself fully, where he forgot about hunger or hardship and instead felt the promise of something greater. It was in these dusty, improvised matches that the first sparks of greatness began to shine. Pelé's talent quickly became obvious to those around him. Even before he entered his teenage years, older boys and adults were impressed with his vision, speed, and ability to outmaneuver opponents. He had an uncanny ability to anticipate where the ball would go, as if he were always a step ahead of everyone else on the field. His father recognized this and encouraged him, though with the realism of someone who knew how hard it was to succeed in football, especially for a boy from such humble origins. Still, Dondinho instilled in his son not only technical lessons but also values of humility, discipline, and respect, qualities that would accompany Pelé throughout. After the triumph of 1958, Pelé's life changed in ways he could scarcely have imagined. He had gone from being a poor boy in Três Corações to becoming a world champion, adored in Brazil and admired across continents. Yet, for all the adulation, he still approached football with the same innocence and joy that had carried him since childhood. Back at Santos, his performances elevated the club to new heights. The years that followed marked the true golden era of Santos Futebol Clube, with Pelé at the very center of its rise. He became not just a star but the beating heart of a team that would dominate both Brazilian and international football for over a decade. In domestic competitions, Pelé's goal-scoring feats reached legendary proportions. He scored with such frequency that fans came to expect him to find the back of the net in every match. His style of play was dazzling, an intoxicating mix of power, elegance, and creativity. He could score from any angle, with either foot, with his head, or by weaving through defenders who seemed helpless against his balance and acceleration. Santos won numerous state and national titles, and Pelé's reputation grew with each victory. But Santos was not just content with conquering Brazil, the club embarked on international tours, eager to showcase its star player to the world. During the early 1960s, Santos traveled extensively, playing exhibition matches across South America, Europe, Africa, and even the United States. Everywhere they went, Pelé drew enormous crowds. In some countries, matches had to be rescheduled or relocated to larger venues because so many people wanted to see him play. He was more than a footballer, he was a spectacle, an ambassador of Brazilian joy and flair. The tours not only brought Santos prestige but also substantial financial rewards, which allowed the club to retain Pelé despite lucrative offers from Europe's biggest teams. Giants like Real Madrid, Juventus, and Manchester United dreamed of signing him, but the Brazilian government itself intervened to ensure he remained in Brazil, declaring him a national treasure who could not be exported. On the international stage, Pelé faced new challenges after the triumph of 1958. The 1962 World Cup in Chile was expected to confirm his status as the world's best player. Brazil, confident and talented, entered the tournament as favorites. Pelé began in spectacular fashion, scoring a stunning solo goal in Brazil's opening match against Mexico. His dribbling and vision were unmatched, and opponents struggled to contain him. But fate intervened in the second game, when Pelé suffered a groin injury that would keep him sidelined for the rest of the tournament. Many feared that Brazil's hopes had been dashed, but the team rallied, with Garrincha emerging as the star of the competition. Brazil went on to win the World Cup again, proving the depth of their talent. For Pelé, it was bittersweet. He added another medal to his collection but was unable. After the glory of the 1970 World Cup, Pelé had already cemented himself as the greatest footballer in history, but his journey was far from over. He continued to play for Santos throughout the early 1970s, and though the club was no longer at the same unstoppable heights it had reached in the previous decade, Pelé's brilliance ensured that Santos remained competitive and respected worldwide. He still scored goals at a breathtaking rate, still dazzled fans with moments of genius, and still carried the aura of a player touched by something beyond the ordinary. For Brazilian fans, he was not only their hero but also their symbol, someone who reminded them of joy during times of political unrest and social challenges. Yet the demands of constant matches, tours, and the physical toll of years of football began to weigh heavily on him. Pelé contemplated retirement more than once, but his love for the game always pulled him back. In 1971, he played his final match for the Brazilian national team in Rio de Janeiro, bringing an end to an extraordinary international career. He had scored 77 goals in 92 appearances for his country, winning 3 World Cups and leaving behind memories that would live forever. The farewell was emotional, with tears in his eyes and a stadium full of fans chanting his name. Brazil was saying goodbye to its greatest son on the pitch, though the world was not quite ready to let him go. At Santos, Pelé continued to carry the team through the mid-1970s. His 19-year career at the club was unparalleled, over 1,000 goals scored, countless trophies lifted, and the transformation of a once modest team into a global powerhouse. But as 1974 approached, Pelé announced his retirement from professional football, believing that his body had given all it could and that it was time to step away. His final match for Santos was filled with tributes, emotions, and gratitude. For many, it felt like the end of an era, the curtain closing on a career that had redefined the sport itself. Retirement, however, did not last long. In 1975, Pelé shocked the world by returning to football, not in Brazil, but in the United States. He signed with the New York Cosmos of the North American Soccer League, NASL, a decision that surprised many but ultimately transformed the landscape of football in America. At that time, soccer was far from a major sport in the U.S., overshadowed by baseball, basketball, and American football. The arrival of Pelé changed everything. His signing was hailed as a masterstroke, a way to popularize the sport in a country where it struggled for recognition. The impact was immediate, stadiums filled, television cameras followed him, and millions of Americans who had never paid attention to soccer before were suddenly captivated by the Brazilian legend. With the Cosmos, Pelé brought both flair and legitimacy to the league. Though past his physical peak, he still displayed moments of genius, scoring spectacular goals, delivering inch-p.